Hey everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. It's Pentastar Day again. Today we have a 2015 Dodge Durango 4-wheel drive with only 80,000 miles on it. Guess what the customer complaint is? Well, his story was he heard the Pentastar Tick. There weren't any codes set. He went in there and replaced some parts. All of the rocker arms. He looked at the camshafts. He actually said they were fine, but while you're in there, might as well replace some camshafts, right? So he put in aftermarket camshafts. And after that, after reassembly, he got the dreaded P0018 trouble code, which means the exhaust cam on bank 2 is not happy. It's not synchronized with the crankshaft. Okay. Then he's like, well, since the original camshafts are fine, I'll just put those back in. He did that, and he said it got even worse. It was misfiring, setting all kinds of trouble codes, so he just towed it here. He wants it fixed. He's had enough of this Dodge, so let's dive into it and see if we can hopefully fix this thing. No parts required. Maybe something's off, but we got to collect some data first. Alright, so we got a Christmas tree going on, ABS, traction, check engine light, all the good stuff. So in the PCM, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 codes stored, and 3 of them are active. 2 of them are Camshaft Position Sensor Circuit Bank 2 Sensor 2, Camshaft Position Sensor Circuit Bank 2 Sensor 1. First thing I'm going to do is dive under the hood, do a visual inspection. If the camshaft sensor is not plugged in, obviously you can't read the cams. I don't know if the owner left it unplugged or something, but the only info I got was a P0018. Not the case. So let's dive in under the hood. Alright, here we are under the hood. This is bank 2. And I see signs of frustration. There's brackets that are just flopping around. The intake's probably been off 10 times. Where's this cam sensor? Well, it's kind of under the intake. Hard to see. So I'm going to try to use a mirror to get see where it is. See if it's unplugged. Well, this isn't really the easiest access. I think I can feel the plug on the sensor. And it's definitely plugged in. I think when you gotta pull it in the shop and take off this intake manifold, I don't know if the guy installed an Amazon sensor trying to fix this problem, but we gotta get the cam sensor online before we can diagnose any timing problems. So before we pull in the shop on live data, I have 8 data pins plotted. So you want to plot the cam crank difference. That's the how far the cam is being phased and the actual position for each exhaust and intake cam. So you can see exhaust cam 2 is stuck and exhaust cam intake cam 2 is stuck also, while on bank 1 they seem to be operational. They're about 7 degrees retarded because he didn't replace the timing chains, he just replaced the camshafts. But that cam sensor is definitely offline for bank 2, so we have to get there and see what's going on. So good thing the owner brought his original parts. I found this in the back seat. This is the original cam sensor from this bank, I assume. It's all grimy, but let's pop this in, start the car, see we get data back, get rid of those codes. Alright, so there's the aftermarket sensor, probably Chinesium. Let me put in the original and we'll see if this thing feels any better. Oh, that's a problem. Whoopsies. Wow. That's pretty crazy. So let's put in the original sensor and fix up these wires. Wow. Alright, so the easy thing to do here, because the harness is really tight, was just to cut off the connector completely So we have 2 ripped pins and 2 wires that were kind of, insulation is cracked, so I just snipped those off. Now we can work with this, extend the wires, solder on new extensions, and then we'll have to do 4 soldering connections back here to the original harness. So we gotta get this fixed up before doing any further diagnostics. Okay, so this connector right here, my plan is to reuse these 2 wires. They're stripped back, ready to solder. These 2 are cut too close, chewed off too close to the connector, so we need to extract the pins in order to repair this. And people sometimes in the comments ask, how do you de-pin a connector? Well, every connector is different, so you just look at it, and usually there's a little locking mechanism, like this little red tab, see that just slid out, and then for each pin, generally there's a plastic little tab that holds it on, and you have to lift that tab up enough for the pin to slide out. Okay, so you just kind of poke at it, you know, grab some needles and see if we can extract this sucker. Try to grab onto the remains of the wire here. Yep, that pin is sliding out right there. Ta-da! Not too hard. We want to make sure we get the wiring colors right. So there's pin 1, and the other one. Let's try to extract this guy. You guys probably can't see, but I'm just lifting that plastic up, trying to pull the pin out. There you go. See, it's coming out. And for the pin itself, we want to undo the weather pack. We want to reuse it, obviously. So we'll slide that off. And bend it up out of the way. So you see that slides off, but with the insulation. And then we want to get the insulation out of the weather pack, because there we go. So that is a blue wire with a green stripe. That's going to be on pin 1. And you can use little wire cutters like this to snip the wire as close as possible to the crimp. We won't need that. Okay. So now we have the empty pin, the weather pack, and our wiring color identification right there. So I think I'm just going to solder this pin to the what's on the harness. We don't need to extend it because we're only shortening the harness by like 1/4 of an inch, and there's enough slack to do that. So these will solder right onto the harness, and then what's on the harness will solder onto the pins. Make it a clean repair. So you can see these 2 wires are longer than the other 2. So we'll just solder the pin on to the wire there, slide those into the connector, and then do 2 soldering joints with shrink wrap on these 2. So there are actually 2 dark blue, dark green wires on this camshaft position sensor too. So which one's which? How do we determine that? Well, one of them is a sensor ground, so with our test light connected from battery positive, if it finds a ground, it's going to light up. So which one of these wires is the ground? This one, yes. This one, no. So this is the ground. That's going to be pin 3. and the one we just pulled out of the connector is going to be pin 4. So don't mix these up, otherwise it's not going to work, obviously. Alright, this is going to be a tricky camera shot, but I got both pins and the weather pack installed, ready for soldering on these two dark blue, dark green wires. So, TS100, warm this puppy up. It's nice that the pins hold themselves to the wires. Okay, 400C. And let's heat that joint up. Pre-tin our tip a little bit. Okay. Let's inspect. Perfect. Perfect. They're still hot. So we can slide these into the connectors and then make sure these wires are good length. Put some shrink wrap on the other two. Finish this job up. Alright, so the connector repair is complete. I put the original cam sensor back in. Let's turn the key on and make sure those cam sensor codes are no longer present. Obviously it'll have other codes because our intake manifold's off. And then once those codes are cleared, we'll reassemble everything and see how this thing runs. Actually, let's just reinstall the intake manifold, at least plug everything in. This throttle body is filthy. Let me clean that out with some brake clean and give this thing a fresh start. I just started cleaning the throttle body. This is probably one of the worst ones I've seen ever on any vehicle. If you remember, that other Durango had that weird stalling problem. Hopefully we can prevent that on this one, because the throttle body is filthy. Alright, brake clean does wonders. Good as new. Completely disgusting. Okay, everything's reassembled. Everything's plugged in. Let's clear out all the codes, run this thing. Oh, let's check the engine oil before we do that, just as a precaution. Engine oil looks perfect. And coolant looks, it's on the low mark, so should be good to go. Alright, so in the PCM we have these 5 stored codes. Let's clear out all DTCs. And run it, cross your fingers. Alright, here we go. Back it up. It's definitely stumbling. Maybe it's relearning the idle a little bit. Let's take a look at these camshaft positions. Definitely not happy. I don't think we're done with this car yet. Bankshaft 2, camshaft 1 position, slow response. Let's look at the data stream. Actually, I might have forgotten to connect the vacuum line. I always do that. I left the big one off for the brake booster. Let's see, where does that connect? Hopefully I can get it without removing the intake manifold for the 5th time. Alright, vacuum leak fixed. Much better. Now let's look at exhaust cam 2 and intake cams there. I don't see them phasing, but at least they're all reading in degrees. Maybe you have to relearn. See, this one went from -10 to -2. Ooh, that wasn't good. Well, let's take it for a test drive, see if it sets any codes. ABS light came on, but seems to have good power. We'll take it on the highway. Nope, check engine light popped on. That didn't take long. About a quarter mile. Are the cams still phasing? They are. Okay, we'll pull over, scan it for codes again. Alright, here we go. So 3 codes in the PCM. Implausible left wheel distance signal received. Engine oil pressure control circuit stuck off. Bank 2, camshaft 1 position, slow response. Okay. ABS says left rear wheel speed sensor signal compare failure, so you might have a bad ABS sensor, but cams are fixed. It should run fine. It shouldn't be in limp mode anymore. So I'm going to store this. And then I'll talk to the customer, see if he wants me to do anything else. Actually, I want to do this as a post scan. So we can take a look at ABS data. Left rear wheel speed sensor. Let's look at all the wheel speeds. Left rear, left front, right rear. Graph that. Yeah, left rear is not reading anything at all. Okay. I think we're, at least this car runs now, and the timing problem is fixed. This thing definitely has some get up and go now. These Pentastars have good power when they run well, but at 80,000 miles to have, you know, failures like this, it's kind of disappointing. The cruise control does not work because the ABS light's on. So we'll talk it over to the customer, see if they want to go further, but a little unexpected. I expected there to be an actual timing problem. We found a chewed connector for the cam sensor. Okay, you know, the owner looks like he got really frustrated and didn't scan for codes because there was a separate issue. He started replacing the cams again and this and that, but the connector's chewed off. So you got to follow the data. You can't rush things, jump to conclusions. Scan it for codes and chase the problem. The code led us right to the problem. Just needed, you know, the connector fixed up. So I think that's it for this one. Appreciate everyone watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.